It's home to the world's largest coral reef system, it's the driest inhabited continent on Earth, and it has more kangaroos than people. These are just three of the things that you will learn about Australia. Welcome to the GeoFocus channel. Today we're going to focus on the Commonwealth of Australia. It's debated whether Australia is the world's largest island or the world's smallest continent, or both. It's home to a diverse population of over 25 million people, with waves of migration extending back over 50,000 years, for almost as long as modern humans have lived outside of Africa. The indigenous people of the Australian continent, Aboriginal Australians, arrived on the continent between 50,000 and 65,000 years ago. Archaeological evidence attests to this. For example, the world's oldest axe was found in the Kimberley region of Western Australia, thought to be almost 50,000 years old. Aboriginal Australians, including Torres Strait Islanders, currently make up around 2.8% of Australia's population. The rest of the population consists of the descendants of immigrants and current first-generation immigrants. The original immigrant population were from the UK and Ireland back when Australia was a British penal colony. But not all Australians are the descendants of prisoners. There has been lots of immigration since those days, especially in the decades since World War II. This includes immigrants from a variety of European, Middle Eastern, and East Asian countries, among others. Today, approximately 30% of Australia's residents were born outside of the country. The predominant language spoken in Australia is English, with Australian English having its own unique accents and characteristics. You can learn all about Australian English in my video on the subject, which you can find in the description of this video. Before British colonial settlement, at least 250 Aboriginal languages were spoken. Today, however, only 46 languages remain, with only 11 of them having over 1,000 speakers. This is attributed to the harsh laws in the 19th and 20th centuries which banned Aboriginals from speaking their native languages in public, as well as the Stolen Generation, in which children of mixed Aboriginal European background were forcibly taken from their Aboriginal mothers and re-socialized. Located in the southern hemisphere, over 4,000 kilometers wide and bound by two oceans, the Indian Ocean and the South Pacific Ocean, Australia is home to a diverse array of climates, landscapes, and terrains. Neighboring countries include the island nations of Papua New Guinea, Indonesia, and East Timor to the north, New Zealand to the southeast, and French New Caledonia to the east. Australia can be divided into four main geographic regions. The Western Plateau, with high mountains near the west coast, which get lower as you move east towards the central lowlands. Then there are the Eastern Highlands, also known as the Great Dividing Range, because they separate most of the continent from the coastal plains, Australia's most populated region. You may have heard of the Outback, the inhospitable wilderness of Australia, which Aussies usually call the bush. It refers to any of the remote arid or desert regions which cover much of the interior. It includes most of the Western Plateau and central lowlands. The northern half of Australia lies in the tropical zone, with humid tropical weather near the northern coasts and even some tropical rainforests. But much of Australia is arid or semi-arid. Deserts make up close to 20% of Australia's landmass, while 70% of the mainland receives less than 500 milliliters of rain annually. In the southern half of Australia, the climate varies from subtropical to temperate along the coasts, meaning that winters are generally mild or cool, while inland outback areas can be downright cold at night in the winter. But in summer, watch out! The hottest day ever recorded in Australia was 50.7 degrees Celsius in Oodnadatta, South Australia on January 2nd, 1960. Because it's located in the southern hemisphere, Australia's winter takes place from May to September. This makes it a popular site for Winter Olympians to train during the summer months of the northern hemisphere. Australia comprises 6 states, 3 internal territories, and 7 external island territories. In the northeast of the Australian mainland, you have the state of Queensland. It's most famous for the Great Barrier Reef, the world's largest coral reef ecosystem, comprising over 2,900 individual reefs and 900 islands. And at 2,300 kilometers long, it practically takes up the entirety of the state's eastern coastline. Brisbane is the state's capital and is Australia's third largest city. Next up is the state of New South Wales, located to the south of Queensland and home to Australia's largest and most iconic city, Sydney. Non-Aussies often mistakenly think it's the capital city, probably because it's home to some of Australia's most popular tourist attractions, such as the Sydney Harbour Bridge and the Sydney Opera House. The Australian Capital Territory is an enclave within New South Wales and is home to Canberra, Australia's capital city. The Australian Capital Territory was selected to be a neutral home for the nation's capital due to the rivalry between Sydney and Melbourne. Canberra is a planned city that was founded and built entirely for this purpose. Construction began in 1908, and by 1938, Canberra officially became the nation's capital. Continuing south on our journey around the Australian mainland is Victoria State, where the country's second largest city, Melbourne, serves as the state capital. Victoria is famous for the Great Ocean Road, a 243-kilometer stretch of road with amazing views over the southern shore, with natural landmarks such as the 12 Apostles, a collection of limestone stacks in the sea. Despite the name, there were never actually 12 of them, only 8 to begin with, and now 7 of them after one collapsed back in 2005. No worries, a couple of VBs and you'll start seeing the extra ones. About 240 kilometers south of Victoria State lies the state of Tasmania, which consists of the main island of Tasmania and its surrounding islands. It may seem small if you're looking at the whole map of Australia, but the main island is actually the 26th largest island in the world, and about the same size as Sri Lanka. Its capital city is Hobart, which you can see beautiful views of from the top of Mount Wellington, also known by its Aboriginal name Kunanyi. Next up is South Australia, with its capital city Adelaide. South Australia is the nation's biggest wine-producing region by volume, with just under half of all of Australia's wine. Directly above South Australia is the Northern Territory. Its capital city Darwin is the smallest, wettest, and most northerly of the Australian capital cities. In the southern part of the Northern Territory lies the iconic Uluru, also known as Ayers Rock, a large sandstone rock formation sacred to the local native population. Located on the western side of the continent, the state of Western Australia is by far Australia's largest state, making up almost a third of the total landmass. Known for its natural beauty and uninterrupted shorelines, Western Australia is a popular destination for road trippers and explorers. The capital city is Perth, home to 2 million people. About 30 million years ago, Australia separated from the supercontinent Pangaea, causing its wildlife to develop and evolve in isolation. This has resulted in some of the more unusual creatures on Earth, such as the koala, kangaroo, and platypus. British scientists in the 18th century first thought the platypus was a hoax played upon them by other scientists, and that it was actually a duck's bill attached to the body of an otter. The animals that Australia is most famous for are kangaroos, and there are actually more of them than there are people, nearly outnumbering humans by 2 to 1. However, this statistic may change shortly as the Australian government has made efforts to cull the population as they are troublesome and are considered pests, as unfortunate as that is. The cutest animal you might find in Australia is the quokka, which has gone viral all over the internet. These adorable little creatures are found mainly on Rottnest Island, just off the coast of Western Australia, a short boat trip from Perth. While the quokka may be harmless, Australia is also home to some potentially dangerous creatures. You can find 21 of the world's 25 deadliest snakes, 2 deadly species of spider, a multitude of jellyfish, and crocodiles. Even friendly-looking kangaroos have been responsible for human deaths. But there's no need to panic. Contrary to popular belief, the most dangerous animals in Australia are not sharks, spiders, or snakes, but rather horses, cows, and dogs. One ancient type of dog, the dingo, is the animal responsible for the creation of the world's longest fence. The fence was constructed to keep the dingoes out of the more fertile southeast of Australia in order to protect livestock such as sheep and cows. It's over 5,614 kilometers long and stretches from the coastline of South Australia to just west of Brisbane in Queensland. Believe it or not, Australia is the country with the biggest population of wild camels in the world, over 1 million of them, even though camels are not native to Australia. They were imported from India, Afghanistan, and Arabia in the 19th century. Today, Saudi Arabia actually imports camels from Australia to help meet the demand for camel meat. Bonus fact: Former Prime Minister Bob Hawke holds the world record for downing a yard of ale containing 1.4 litres of beer in just 11 seconds while studying at Oxford University. He's currently the only known world leader to also hold a record in drinking alcohol. Australia is a country and a continent that sparks the imaginations of people all over the world. It's amazing for its huge size and its stunning and varied nature and wildlife. But it's also impressive because of the people and their friendly, laid-back nature. Now over to you. What did you find most interesting about Australia in this video? And if you're from Australia, what else do you want us to know about your country? Do you want to see GeoFocus videos before anyone else and without any ads? Become a member of this channel and you'll see videos 1 week early and completely ad-free. Click the join button next to the subscribe button for more information. If you liked this video, then make sure to hit the like button and have a nice day.